Arlington professor of logic posted a call to action demanding people call the school and get it canceled due to me being a, quote, alt-right neo-Nazi. As evidence of my Nazi views, he posted completely fabricated tweets. I immediately had my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, officially request a retraction of the lie.
The legal definition of what I sent was a love note, requesting a retraction and a correction.
A review. You reviewed it, and your conclusion was that statements attributing genocide to someone fake.
There's literally,
or okay.
But he didn't. This professor of logic just went on continuing with the false claims, non-stop, publicly, to his students, including that I sent neo-Nazis to his house and that I personally made death threats against him and his family myself. Only when I called the campus police to verify the veracity of the claims. Hey, Detective Lee, this is Steven Crowder.
As far as I can see, there's no offense. There's, nothing of that nature.
Okay. So considering this teacher of logic was teaching slander and libel to his students to prevent anyone here from making a living, we alerted the UT Arlington dean.
Refer you, Mr. Crowder, to either our university attorney.
Not only did the school do nothing, they went out of their way to support Professor. Now, keep in mind, this professor has also publicly protested and harassed conservative students. I'm fortunate enough to have a platform, but it's scary to think that if this man does this publicly, how is he treating his own conservative students behind closed doors? Now, I'm not a guy who wants to destroy a man's life, suing him for verifiable, repeated attempts at libel. But at this point, what choice did I have? Hi, Professor. I just wanted to clarify something here for the record, because I know you've been working at this school for a while and actually posting online that I'm a neo-Nazi, some false libelous claims. I'd like to know if you could correct the record.
I would like to say that when you went to your show and you told some... What happened last year? Was during spring break of last year.
You're hijacking my
education.
Yeah, I understand, but
within spring break of last year, this man posted online attacks on me.
That I said,
when he posted these attacks on me,
put all the in the oven. I would never say this.
When he posted these attacks on me, what ended up happening?
What attacks on you? What attacks on you?
His followers went online.
What attacks did I post on you?
They started putting death threats to my son.
Yes. You said I threatened your son.
When my son was receiving death threats.
By the way, for the record, I would never ever threaten violence. I don't believe in violence. Unlike some of the calls you made online, I would never threaten anybody with violence. I just want to make sure that me and my staff are able
My
to
son
continue to
received
make
death
a
threats
living.
from this man.
I sent death threats to your son?
To get me fired. This man's lawyer has put
When did I
threats
call
to me.
death threats to your son?
This man has put laws to...
Truth matters. Truth matters. And I never threatened your son.
Now,
But
what I really hope is that in the future, what you will do is stop putting death threats against me and my friends.
Which death threats? Where?
You've also put threats.
What death
against-
threats? When did I ever threaten you, your students, anyone here? Your son? When? What proof do you have? That's a big claim.
How about your Facebook post?
Right now I threatened you to death?
You put the schedule of...
When did I threaten anybody with violence? Because I actually advocate against it. Right now, please, no violence. But I think it's wrong to lie. So do you admit that that's not true? Do you admit that I never said those things?
No, that's what you said.
I said this.
Answer yourself.
This is your. This is the guy
just
teaching you
yourself.
logic and how to deal with truth.
contradicting
This is
yourself.
important. Here's the thing. He's been invited. He's been invited. That's okay. He's been invited for an open forum debate repeatedly and has declined it. He has falsely libeled and slandered not only me but members of my team repeatedly, and he has told you, his students, something that is not true. But you said I made it first.
No, you said that.
You said that I said those things.
You claimed that these quotes came from the Daily Stormer initially.
You're a professor of
Now you
logic?
claim they came from me.
You posted this on your Facebook page saying Steven Crowder posed this.
Did these come from the Daily
Did
Stormer?
I ever say these things?
Don't touch that guy.
Did I ever say these things? I've never issued a threat. But you have. Well, you know why? You know why? Because it's how I make a living. And truth matters. You're in a class where you're supposed to learn about truth. But what if I were to just spread a rumor that, for example, he were having a relationship with you, or you, I have no idea, to get you fired? Would that be okay as long as I didn't like you?
It is something your followers have done. It is something your followers have done.
I've never done that. So when did I threaten
I'll see
anybody?
you guys next class.
When did I threaten anybody?
Your platform has called for various new programs, including Medicare for all, housing is a federal right, a federal jobs guarantee, tuition-free public college, canceling all student loan debt. According to nonpartisan and left-leaning studies friendly to your cause, including the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities or the Tax Policy Center, the overall price tag is more than $40 trillion in the next decade. You recently said in an interview that increasing taxes on the very wealthy plus an increased corporate tax rate would make $2 trillion over the next 10 years. So where's the other $38 trillion going to come from?
Well, one of the things that we need to realize when we look at something like Medicare for all would save the American people a very large amount of money. And what we see as well is that these systems are not just pie in the sky. Many of them are accomplished by every modern civilized democracy in the Western world. The United Kingdom has a form of single-payer health care. Canada, France, Germany. What we need to realize is that these investments are better and they are good for our future. These are generational investments so that they're not short-term band-aids, but they are really profound decisions about who we want to be as a nation and how we want to act as the wealthiest nation in the history of the world.
Right. Now, I get that. But the price tag for everything that you've laid out in your campaign is $40 trillion over the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. I understand that Medicare for all would cost more to some wealthier people and to the government and to taxpayers while also reducing individual healthcare expenditures. But I'm talking about the overall package. You say it's not pie in the sky, but $40 trillion is quite a bit of money. And the taxes that you talked about raising to pay for this, to pay for your agenda, only count for $2. And we're going by left-leaning analysts.
Right. Well, when you look again at how our healthcare works, currently we pay much of these costs go into the private sector. So what we see is, for example, a year ago, I was working downtown in a restaurant. I went around and I asked how many of you folks have health insurance. Not a single person did, because they would have had to have paid $200 a month for a payment for insurance that had an $8,000 deductible. What these represent are lower costs overall for these programs. And additionally, what this is a broader agenda. We do know and we acknowledge that there are political realities. They don't always happen with just the wave of a wand, but we can work to make these things happen. And in fact, when you look at the economic activity that it spurs, for example, if you look at my generation, millennials, the amount of economic activity that we do not engage in, the fact that we delay purchasing homes, that we don't participate in the economy and purchasing cars, et cetera, as fully as possible, is a cost. It is an externality, if you will, of unprecedented amounts of student loan debt.
I'm assuming I'm not going to get an answer for the other $38 trillion, but we'll have you back.
Professor Whitworth wrote a column about, in her words, being ecosexual, saying that if we view trees as potential romantic partners, we may be more likely to want to conserve them. So I have a few Tinder bios here for some very eligible bachelors. Some people call them trees. Some people view them as a little bit more than that. First off, we have the mighty redwood. She's tall, she's elegant. West Coast girl, does that appeal to you?
Oh yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of the redwood? Swiping right or left on this?
Definitely right.
Man, he got some color, a little melanin.
Tall, dark, and handsome.
Yeah, I can't fit my arms around all the way.
That sounds a little messed up. I mean, there's just a little more junk in the trunk for you to work with.
Yeah. No, too big.
Too big?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty discriminatory.
No, it's just that's just not my type.
Tall, dark, and handsome is definitely a usual catch.
Anything else you like about the redwood here?
The height.
The height, okay. Good to know. Next up, the bonsai tree. This one's a little more exotic, much smaller. I don't know how you feel about smaller men. There's a lot of cosmetic changes to a bonsai tree too. They kind of manipulate it to make it look like something it's not. It's not all natural. It's kind of like the Kardashian of trees.
I don't have a problem with that as long as I get to see like the true self.
I have a bonsai at home. They're kind of annoying to take care of.
He's very unique, but not.
Yeah.
That's usually what women say about a guy that is not good looking. He's unique. I don't know about attractive. She's a little short. She's gonna be about 18 inches tall.
Okay. I don't know, maybe not then.
Wow, that's pretty messed up, dude. That's kind of discriminatory based on size.
I don't.
We would have to go through a list of pictures.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes, you know, on these profiles, it's very deceiving. You see some pictures at first and you're like, okay, bonsai tree. And then you scroll and you realize she's been using some of those filters and
Yeah.
something to think about. If it's like in a little vase on your table, that might be.
I can't do that.
Yeah, no, and there's
Left.
swiping left. Okay, I think that was an easy.
I'm definitely right.
Usually when I think of bonsais, I think of like more cultured because we don't really have them